right, we're back. This is the Pencil Kings podcast, and we're trying a new format. We're going with video now and going to see how that works out. And we're talking, it's been 2 years since I originally interviewed Kevin Murphy, and a lot has happened since in those past 2 years. And so I figured it was time to talk about what I've been doing. And it's a big part of why I've been gone from doing the podcast, because there's just a lot of things to do. So welcome, Kevin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So just to preface all of this, and because you may not have listened to the original podcast, I heard about Kevin, and we were texting back and forth. And then Kevin, he sent me some photos, and they were along the lines of this. And he's like, hey, this is like how old would this student have been?
I think she was 17.
Yeah, these are some of my students at the school. And they're creating works like this. These are not photographs. These are pencil works, and I had them printed out here. But Kevin showed me these, and I almost wanted to call BS, because I'm like, no young kids are doing these. But I know it's within the realm of possibility, but I don't know. And so about a week or 10 days later, I was on a flight to go to New Jersey, where the physical school is, to see what was up. And then it blew my mind, because all these kids and adults and everyone was just creating amazing artwork all around me. And so that was 2 years ago. And then since then, it was, the idea came about. It's like, well, can we deliver this to people all over the world? And that's been the last 2 years. So I just going to turn it over to Kevin now and let him fill you in, because I feel like he's the better storyteller here. And so take us back, like, let's just say the last 12 months, because I feel like things really got started about September 2017.
Well, I want to apologize. I'm going to be coughing a little bit. I'm a bit under the weather today. I'll try to keep it to a minimum. But so actually, I'll quickly go back to when you came out to the school. You say that it was within the realm of possibility, but let's be honest. What I was showing you does not appear to be within the realm of possibility for a 12 or 15-year-old kid. It's pretty miraculous. You would expect to see it from a professional, or something on that order. And so, Mitch came down, and he spent like 3 or 4 days at the school, and I walked him through portions of the program. Mitch, being an artist himself already, was able to move through these things very quickly. And so I was able to give him a sense of how we break the program down, how we break the information down into tiny, tiny parts, so that it's easily digested. No big parts, no major jumps, no heavy lifting, but all very small incremental steps. So the education happens, and it feels very natural. Everything is a natural progression from the thing that came before. And so when Mitch was down, at the end of his trip that evening, we sat down, and he said to me that he'd like to digitize the program, to turn the program into an online resource for people, and basically spread it around the world, and asked me if I was interested. Originally, it wasn't that I wasn't interested, but I wasn't interested in a lot of the labor that goes into running a business like this. And I said that I would be happy to do all of the programming. I'd be happy to put together the videos and function as support in that way, but I didn't want to do the business end of it. And Mitch said, no problem, I've got that. You jump in, you do the videos, I'll take care of the business. And we got to work immediately. Started making videos. The initial videos were done multiple times. And actually, for those of you who have listened to the original podcast, I've been called on this. In the podcast, I said very clearly, I wasn't mumbling, but I said very clearly that art could not be taught through the internet. It couldn't be done. And it took us a while to figure out how to do it. And it's still a work in progress. We're getting the results. The results in the online program and the Evolve program right now are on par with the program inside of the brick and mortar school. Our front runners in the online program and the Evolve program are matching painting for painting what my students do in the brick and mortar schools, which is pretty incredible. But we spent, the first year we spent putting together the program and then breaking it down and putting it together again, and then breaking it down and putting it together over and over and over, the multiple iterations. and stopgap measures to bridge between one thing we thought of and something else. And there was just a lot of things. And I guess about a year ago, everything kind of gelled. We pulled everything together and started moving the program forward into the second and third and fourth, and all the way up right now to the 7th of 8 blocks. The first 4 blocks are now foundation. The second 4 blocks are mastery. And so, at on each front, we have, because it's a correspondence school, the homework interface has been developed, almost on a daily basis, which is adding something to it to enhance the ability for the instructors to work with the students in the program. But Evolve was a perfect name for the program because the program is evolving on a daily basis, and it gets better every day. The experience for the users gets better every day, and in no small part because of the students' contributions. The students jump in, and we're building a family, just like we have at the art school.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and I think for me on my side, just the time that we live in today, where you can start to put these pieces of the technology together, and it's not necessarily like it's easy. But what we've done here, even like 2 or 3 years ago, I don't think it would be possible. Like there's just certain technological and programming advances that allows us to be able to deliver what we're giving to students on the scale that we're doing it. That it's all new. I feel like we're breaking such new ground that like one of the things that, and I really get excited and kind of nerd out about these technical things, but the fact that we're turning homework and giving feedback to students twice a day. I don't know anybody who can do that. You think of even a brick and mortar school, you hand in or you college or whatever, you hand in your assignment and then you hear back in a couple of weeks. So students all over the world, I think 37 or so different countries, they send their homework in, and then a few hours later, someone's looking at it and sending it back, or depending on what the schedule is, but twice a day. And so it's miraculous because there's just nothing even close to this. And I want to show, I think one of the things that Kevin was really excited about that I'm going to show you maybe on my side while he's talking here, the boxes that we send out to people. And what Kevin was so excited about was getting to work with Old Holland, who recently I had the good fortune to be in Europe, and I was able to go and visit the factory and see how the paint was made. And so for the students who are in the program, and I'm just moving towards getting into paint. I've been in the first block, the drawing, for quite a while because I'm busy helping the students, but I'm almost done. And my last piece is going to be, I hope, a real showstopper and exciting for the students. But this is the paint that we have custom made. And maybe you could explain, Kevin, like what is special about these? Because I didn't, now I get it, but I didn't originally get it, why you were so excited about Old Holland paint.
Yeah, well, for people who already paint, you probably know the Old Holland brand. Old Holland is the oldest paint manufacturer in the world. They have been in business since 1644. Old Holland was founded by a handful of Dutch masters looking to support each other and kind of pull their resources together. And they've been in business ever since. There are paintings done by old masters using Old Holland paint. Vermeer is one of the big names. If you look at the girl with the pearl earring, which is one of his more famous pieces, you are looking at Old Holland paint. I mean, it's a pretty incredible thing to have a relationship with them. To my knowledge, they've never attached themselves to any other school like this. And not only are we using the materials, but they're actually producing a grayscale specific to our school. You only get it through our program. And it's designed to line up with the way that we teach. And it simplifies. Most people, you see a grayscale, it's 11 shades of gray. When we work with just 4. And it simplifies the process, but by the time you're done with your painting, you have all 11 shades in place just by virtue of the process of laying the paint down. So again, you're only juggling 4 shades in order to make a painting that's a full range of value in grayscale. But like I said, Old Holland, when we first started talking with them about working together, I was very excited. And Old Holland, most people stay away from Old Holland until they're hardcore professionals, because the paint it has a high price tag on it. But it has a high price tag because of the pigment density of the paint.
Yeah.
So a small tube of Old Holland that's $35, it could be half the size of a tube from another company that's $35, but it has twice the paint of the other tube because it's nothing but pigment and oil, and it's dense. The paint it actually, in most cases, needs to be cut with a medium in order to be usable because it's so dense. There's no other way to say it, but it is the finest paint in the world. It is the gold standard. And I don't think any paint companies debate that point. There's Old Holland, and then you've got a whole bunch of other companies fighting for position, one step down from them, and their paint, they only make professional grade paint. So for me, I don't believe that the paint that you use or the brushes that you use make you a better artist. But when you're learning, especially when you're learning, having a material that doesn't get in the way of what you're doing, so that when you make a mark, it's exactly what you intend. And if the paint is a mediocre paint, you don't know if the problem is the material or if it's you. When you work with Old Holland paint, if there's a problem, it's you. It's not the paint. And so the idea of having access to the finest materials in the world, and being able to bring them to the students at within the cost of the program, because there's no cost for the materials. It's built into the price of the program. People look at the program and they might, I don't know how people perceive it. They might think it's a little expensive compared to other things they're looking at. But the cost of the materials that we send in that box to the students amounts to half to maybe 2/3 of the cost of the program. If they went out to the store and tried to buy this paint, it would cost them a fortune. The brushes are handmade. I mean, it's just everything that we're using is top shelf. And so the students get used to working with quality material. And I think that's critical in an education. Working with not just with top grade material, but working with the same material that the teacher works with. If everybody's using different material, it's hard to tell which green mixes which way with what red. Old Holland, it's the same every time. Any brand you use. But for us, we're using Old Holland because we have access to it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that really attracted me to how you're teaching was the consistency of the student results. Like everyone were consistently getting the same results, or not the same, similar, because now we can see in the program that it's not the same, but it's very close. And I'm just going to show a couple of my drawings. I'm definitely not the best student, but just to give you an idea of what we're going through in the program. So I'm going to go back kind of let me actually go in the proper order. So these sheets, like this is the first sort of like main exercise that we do. And what you're seeing here is even, everything has been upgraded since, like, this is the original ones that we started with a year ago. So these have also gone through a couple different iterations. So if you were to join the program today, you would do slightly different exercises, and everything starts with a variation of this sheet. And I've done a couple, demos and stuff because we're often, we have these study groups. I think there's 10 different live sessions that happen a week. So if you want to hop on with other students or you're feeling isolated, like, it's a great way to connect with other people. But this is the first exercise. And I feel like this is like anyone can really do this. And this is the thing where people are like, I'm not sure if I could do this. And I usually say, well, if you can sign your name, you're pretty good. Like if you can hold the pen or pencil. And like I was saying, I'm definitely not the best student. Here's the first assignment where you're really starting to do some of the drawings. And I'll just go through these quickly. Some of the last ones that we got here. They're very, they're like deceptively simple. And I think from the student's point, there's a point where you're working through it and you're working through it and you're working through it. And then something just clicks all of a sudden. And you have this, it's like you're I'm not sure if my eyes are making a leap or my brain is making a leap or my hand is making a leap. And maybe all three of them are coming together. But instead of just, oh, I'm going through the exercise, it's like all of a sudden, oh, I can control this. I have like a whole new level of control of kind of pushing things around and moving them. And I explain it's like painting with charcoal, but it's not until, I don't know how many hours even I spent doing this until I got to that point. But it's somewhere along the lines, you hit it. And then it's not the same after that, because now it's like the difference between walking and running or something. And then everything starts to flow very nicely. And I will show, this is the last one, the one that I'm most proud of, that I spent a little bit of extra time on this cherub to get a few extra details in. But like I said, I'm not the best student. I'm just a average student in the course. And I'm looking forward to moving through to, I always hated painting. I went to art school, obviously, and they didn't really teach us. It's sort of like, okay, you need to buy these acrylics, now paint some things. And I hated it because coming from digital, I always had the undo button. And with paint, there's no undo. You only do. And but now I can see where the control comes in part of what was missing from the education that we were given at school.
Yeah, I love the fact that you say that you're like an average student, because, looking at the work that you're doing, people would probably have a hard time understanding how that's average. But within the program, those results are typical. I mean, they really are. Everybody gets those results. It's, and again, you were saying, one of the big strengths of the program is that it is consistent. People are always nervous about jumping into a program because they don't know if they can do it. Somebody else might be able to, but they don't know if they can. And if they can see a string of people, one after another, from all walks of life, all ages, and just streaming into a program and finding that is the average result, it gives people confidence that if everybody else can do it, why not me?
Yeah, and that's been, I think, for me, one of the challenges. One of the adult students, when I was visiting in New Jersey, he said, there's something special here. If you can figure out how to bottle this and bring it onto the internet, then you would really, that's really something that you need to focus on. And I often am racking my brain, how do we do that? Because in New Jersey, everyone's sharing a space. So you sit down, as soon as you walk in, you see all this amazing work on the walls. And then you realize, oh, that was a 15-year-old student. And that was this, any story that you can imagine, like someone has, if you think you have some kind of reason why you couldn't do it, there is a student in Kevin's studio who has had that situation, whatever it is, like no times,
I have a student, she's in her 80s with rheumatoid arthritis. She couldn't draw her hands. She couldn't hold a pencil. So she painted instead, and she's fine.
Wow.
She doesn't get into a lot of detail work, but she can paint. She can paint, and she loves it. I mean, you think her hand's so bad, she cannot hold a pen to sign her name, but she can paint.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I've been racking my brain, like, how do we bring this experience? And now it's starting to happen. Like, we can start to see some of the students are posting their work on Instagram. That's one of the things that we're going to be doing more of is moving more into Instagram. So other students can get the sense of like, if you want it, it's here. This is where it's at. This is where the consistent results are at. And people have been asking me, like, Mitch, and this is, coming back to the podcast, Mitch, why did you go all in on this program? And I talk about Dorian's interview with Burn the Boats, and just, I had to take a break from the podcast because I wasn't sure if it was being, if it was the right medium or the right message or whatever, but this was the thing. This is why I started Pencil Kings. And even before Pencil Kings, this is why I started Drawing Coach, which was the original website that you have. If you want to see some embarrassing drawings, you can go back to Drawing Coach. But it was to find something. And I was trying to develop this curriculum myself and consulting with different people. But what I realize now is that my piece of the puzzle is that I understand the online part and the technology and the bringing people together and the, like, how to synthesize ideas. And then you plug this curriculum into that and it creates a great yin and yang of everything. And so now this amazing curriculum can be distributed to whoever wants to learn. And there's literally like nothing else that I could see myself doing. Like there's no project, no video game, no movie, no comic book, no whatever that someone could say, hey, do you want to work on this new thing? We're going to reinvent Spider-Man. No, I'm helping reinvent art education. Imagine that journey. That's a pretty cool journey. And so that's why I've been, why I disappeared for a little bit and why I was going all in. And now that it's been a year and the student results are starting to come, it's time to start again telling more people about it, because I think we're ready for more people to know about what we've been doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, the students who are in Block 4 right now, the work is jaw-dropping. It's a shame that we don't have any of it here with us. The students obviously don't ship the work to us, but we have a few students that are in Block 4 right now, and they blew through. So Block 1 was slow, but they moved through Block 2 and Block 3, which are grayscale painting and foundations of color painting, in about 3 months. They knocked out both of those and then rolled into Block 4, where they're starting to make they're basically like commercial illustrations. And the images are more artsy, but they're painted the way you might paint a commercial illustration. So they're already now honing those skills, getting ready to produce work that they could sell. And the quality of the work is just, I mean, like I said, even for me, when we first had that podcast, I didn't believe that you could take this information and disseminate it without being in the room. And I mean, you figured out a way to do it. And we're seeing the results every time. So we have meetings, we have weekly meetings when we talk about this stuff. And when the first two students got into Block 4, we were sitting there just with our mouths open, looking at these paintings. And the two people couldn't be more different. One's a grandmother and one is a middle-aged guy with 7 kids. And they're just they're doing it for completely different reasons. And they're just killing it, and they're just getting their feet on the path. It took me almost 30 years to get where I am, and I've condensed all of that knowledge, not the experience, but the knowledge, into what's going to amount to about a 24-month program. Mm. And that's a part-time job. It's part-time. It's not even full-time work. It's part-time. If you have nothing else on your plate and you do this full-time, you could probably get through everything in a year, maybe 16 months at the most. So if you desperately want to be a working professional artist, it's 16 months away if you really commit. I mean, it's really not. There's not that much to learn. It's more about the time you spend in front of the easel working. And I think the information we put out there is simple enough, and it moves students far, ahead fast enough that all they have to do is commit the energy. Yeah,
it's been interesting watching the students go through, as well as just being aware of my own struggles with things. And the struggles are completely self-imposed, where it's like you're trying to put more into something than it needs, or you're getting more emotional about a homework assignment, let me just hold up another one of these again here. So, you start getting all emotional, like you're creating this next masterpiece here. And it's not to say that that's wrong, but when you do that, there's a lot of energy. And if you just look at it as like, well, no, I'm just trying to learn how to shade things and how to understand how light works and move through this to the next assignment. I think that's the right way now. After seeing people do that, and we talk about this in our homework clubs when we're live chatting with each other, just like, yeah, once I just treated it as an exercise, and it was just like trying to move to the next exercise and do my best, but I also am trying to keep progressing, life got way easier. And I was no longer emotionally attached to things. And what is that? The emotional attachment? pondered that?
You know what, it's part of it is a desire to succeed. It's, we don't like to fail. Our society tells us failing is a bad thing. And so we're emotionally invested in the success of the work. And, unfortunately, generally speaking, when we're focused on that, we're not learning. The failures, they're painful. And the successes, we just pat ourselves on the back for the success, but it's all emotional. And, the idea is when you're learning this stuff, it doesn't have to be an emotional thing. It's mechanical. At least at the beginning, it's mechanical. Learning how, it's no different than learning an alphabet. A, B, C, D. You don't get emotional about that. I mean, you might if you were 13 years old and you still didn't have it down. But, you're not emotionally connected to the alphabet when you're learning it. You're just learning it. It's a rote exercise. And what we're doing in the first 4 blocks is exactly the same. We're learning. It's a rote exercise. We're trying to break down existing ideas about how we view the world, trying to create a new language, a visual language with which to take information in, filter it so that we can utilize it for drawing and painting. And, but you're right. I mean, it's people get all caught up in it and they get wound up. And if something's not going perfectly, it frustrates them. Frustration stems from putting in all this energy to do something and feeling like you're wasting your time. That's really what frustration is. Most people, if you ask them to do something for 100 hours and they had no idea what the outcome would be, that it could be an abject failure or it could be a really wonderful piece of art. If things weren't working out beautifully 10 hours in, you would see them start to drop off. However, if you could guarantee somebody that for that same 100 hours, if they just stayed focused, you could absolutely guarantee the results, the high quality results. Those people would be able to stay focused. There'd be no frustration because they would know that the guarantee is as long as they commit the energy, they'll get the result. Mm-hmm. And you have to get to a point where you understand that making art is just a matter of focus, patience, and I mean, that's really all it is. Caring about what you're doing and just being patient as you work. Almost like 99% of the issues with art come from working too fast. Almost everything that people do that they make mistakes in art is about the pace that they work. Most people, they just work too fast. You got to slow them down.
Yeah, and I think that's one of my big realizations was the slowing down, which I feel like is forced because coming from a fast-paced production life where it's like everything should be done yesterday and done faster and cheaper, that was the rule. That's what we lived and died by. But I'm curious about this idea of the emotional attachment because I see it in the online group, but I don't really see it when I visit the studio and I talk to the students. Cause I'm always like, just speaking to people, like I'd crouch down beside their easel and there's one boy, I'm not sure how old, or I guess young man, maybe. I'm guessing he's about 14 or 15. He's painting these photorealistic basketball players.
Oh, Slash. Yeah.
And he's just, every time I visit the studio, it's like moving forward and it's at like an amazing state now. It's not finished, but you can see everything coming together. Whereas before I wasn't sure. There's always this point with the paintings where I'm just like, I don't know how it's going to come together. And then some time passes and I'll see it again. And it's just like, oh, totally knocked it out of the park. But when I talk to these students, I get no sense that there's emotional attachment. They're just there. It's like they're having fun. It's like, I almost want to say cutting the grass or something. Like they're just doing it. It's not so mundane as that, but what is,
well,
is it
one of
the
the
age
things,
or?
No. One of the things is that they're raised in that environment. While I'm talking, I'm actually rolling through the Facebook feed to see if I can find Sasha's painting. I know it's in here, so I got it. I wanted to put this up so people could see it. We're talking about it. So.
Yeah, it's incredible. But
I don't know if people can make this out, but that's his painting, and to the side over here is the photograph behind it that he's working from for reference. But you can get a sense of it. He's 16 years old.
Okay.
16 years old. So, but well, look, I mean, one is that the students are raised in the school and they're told not to get attached. A lot of the students, after they finish the exercises, throw them away. We don't get invested in them. If you're worried about the end result, you're not thinking about the road you're traveling. They talk about that even in life. It's not the destination, it's the trip, it's the steps you take. And so when we're making art, we try to keep that same idea in mind. We don't worry about the end result. If you do all of the steps properly and you stay in the moment while you work, the end result takes care of itself. You don't get emotional about it. All you're doing is walking. You can get emotional about where you want to be. And that's really what causes the issue. As long as you've got your head down and you're focused on your work, the end result takes care of itself. And there's no emotion in the labor. The emotion is in succeeding or failing at the end. But the success or failure of a piece of art is a matter of the individual decisions you make along the way while you're making it. And they should be dispassionate. At least at the beginning when you're learning. I mean, getting passionate about what you're doing, your subject matter, and even the application of paint later on is different. Being invested in your work is very important. But when you're learning the technical nuts and bolts, it gets in the way. It has to be an analytical thing.
It's weird hearing you say that, because I think back to when I was in high school. I don't think I was very emotionally invested in my pieces, but at university I was. And I didn't produce a lot. I was like, grades wise, I did great, but I should have been kicked out of school at least a few times for like deliberately being disobedient in the school and trying to get kicked out with my art pieces. I don't know. It's a very interesting thing. And I think for me, understanding the psychology is kind of the other like really interesting part of this journey, or that I found in working with the students. Like right now we have a 30-day challenge to hit every single day. I think a few of the students they can work at it full time, but most of us can't. We're just hobby artists. Or maybe have aspirations for something more, but right now we have to be realistic with with our responsibilities. And so the goal is just like, December is a crazy time of year. Let's get 30 days in a row and prove to ourselves that once, January, February, March, those are easy months compared to December. If we can do December, then we've ran the gauntlet a little bit. And it just comes back to this psychology element. But have you noticed like the way people think different from the online than in the school? And I keep saying that in the school, people get a lot of things for free, that that you impart a lot of knowledge that when you're alone, you only have the videos and as much interaction as you want to have.
Yeah, well, I mean, the students in the school get to hear me go on and on. And as I'm getting older, I'm getting senile, so I tell the same awful stories. But no, you know what the thing is with the online program? I do a Q&A every Tuesday night. Anybody can come on, and then it's not even about the Evolve program. Anybody who's in the program can jump on and talk to me about anything art related. And so people have access to me. It's not like I'm this guy up on a mountain and I occasionally send out a video. I'm available. I was on a podcast earlier and I was talking about how we've had people prospective students who were on the fence about the program. They had questions that we didn't answer in whatever format they were introduced to the program in. And I got on and I chatted with them just like this, 15, 20 minutes, a half hour to answer their questions. I mean, for me, and this is really kind of the crux of things for me, art has given me an incredible life, a life that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And so for me, sharing it is important. And so taking the time, people have always been very generous when I've been in need of information, art related, when I ran into walls and I couldn't figure out how to get over them. An artist who knew more than I did was generous enough to share that information with me. And so because of their generosity, I'm where I am. I've really had a wonderful life being able to do something that I love. And to be able to offer that to other people is important to me. Being able to open this up and make that dream a reality for somebody else. And I say make it a reality. I can't do anything but offer what I know. People make their own dreams real. The Evolve program will give you all the tools to bring that dream to life if you want, if that's what you want. You have to put in the energy, but we give you the information, you know. And so for me, I mean, that's critical. And I think, like, in the school, I mean, this class is ended at 9 o'clock. And sometimes that's 11:30 at night with a student because they're working on something and they're just not getting it. And I'm sitting there with them alone. It's a private lesson, but I just sit there with them and I help them to work it out. Another thing which I'm real particular about this, I never touch my students' work, ever. I mean, I hear teachers do that kind of stuff all the time. I will talk to a student, I'll advise them, but I never touch their work. Anything that comes out of my school is done entirely by my student. I think that's super important. Years ago, if I couldn't, because I wasn't sure how to explain something, I would demonstrate it on the student's painting and then wipe it off. But I made students cry. And so, you know, students would get very upset when I did that. So I stopped doing that entirely and turned it into just a verbal thing. Yeah, I mean, they would watch me do it and it seemed so easy and they knew it was not going to be easy for them. So they loved the way it looked in their painting and they'd be like, no, don't wipe it away. But again, for me, it's important that the students feel strong in their abilities, that they're confident, that they can stand on their own 2 feet. And you don't get that by propping them up, by holding them up. And look, I mean, there's, you know, I have a strong personality, and in the school, the students have to deal with that. I don't answer a lot of questions. I pose questions. A student will come over and say, I think I'm done. And I say, you know, go back to your seat and continue working. Come back and get me when you are done. I don't want to hear that you think you're done. You should know by now. You've been here 6 weeks. You should know if you're done. You know what's expected. Go back and work. If you're coming over and you think you're done, I know you're not. Go back. And the students get a lot of that, and they learn to be self-sufficient. In the online program, being that they're working in their own home, they are forced to be self-sufficient. But through all the different chats that me and Piper and you and the homework groups and all of the other venues that we have, students are able to get access when they need it. And again, you know, if I'm not in something or if a student can't make it, they send an email to customer service, and then I get in touch with them and I sit down and I talk with them. Again, getting access to the source, getting access, whether it's merely for inspiration or if it's to ask an important question that they can't, that they can't seem to get around. That, you know, even in the homework tool, we have people who check the homework, and if there's something that's a little bit above their pay grade, it's moved up to Piper. And even with Piper, there are times when, and she knows the program inside and out. I mean, she's an incredible artist. And I mean, she runs the school for me when I'm not there. She runs certain classes for me when I am around, but she runs my school when I'm not in town. And so, but there are some things that even for Piper, where she'll look at it and she'll be like, you know, she could answer it, but she knows that the answer is not going to be as clear as something how I would explain it. And it gets bumped up to me. So people actually get homework returned by me. And a lot of the time, things like that, things that come up to me like that generally turn into chats, because it's easier to have a conversation to explain something than it is to write a text. And it's more personal. And, you know, we're trying to make sure that the Evolve program has that personal touch to it.
So I think we should probably wrap up here, but there's one thing that you said the other day that blew my mind. So my mind's been blown multiple times, but the thing that blew my mind is that at the end of block 4, which we call foundation now, is that the students, because we have students who are at the end of block 4 now, whereas a year ago, everyone was starting. So I have students at the end of block 4 now, and so it's been about a year. And what you said was that students who are now at block 4 have the same knowledge, maybe not the same experience, because that's like time served, right? Number of hours served, but they have the same knowledge that I did at the height of my career.
Yes, at the height of my illustration career. Yeah, and actually they know more. The students who are in block 4 at this point actually have a more sound education in art than I did after 8 years of working as a commercial illustrator. And I had we're talking 300 plus commercial illustrations. work for Star Wars and Jurassic Park and National Geographic, a cover for the Rolling Stones. And I've got students that have been in the program months, and they know more than I did. And what it is that I wasn't educated. I just did the work. I labored. I really labored unnecessarily. Had I been more knowledgeable, had I had the information, the education, it wouldn't have been the same story. But yes, these students, they actually have a more solid foundation than I did at the end of my illustration career. And by the time they finish block 4, they should be able to produce work on par with what I was doing through my illustration career. And we're seeing that. We're seeing the results. I mean, there's no, it's just for me. And again, we have our meetings, and when we saw these first pieces come in for block 4, what I said on that morning to Mitch and to everybody else that was in the meeting is that the program's a success, because this block 4 is the test. It's where we bring everything together from blocks 1, 2, and 3 and see if it gels. It works in the school, and so I knew that it worked there. But did it work online? Could the students bridge the gap from the exercises to the real paintings? And we're seeing that they're doing it and not even breaking stride, which is just incredible.
So that blew my mind, and that everything is working like this. It's sort of everything that I had hoped that we could accomplish. We're doing it, we're living it. And this is really just the beginning, because it's going to, like, Evolve was the perfect, I remember sitting down with Kevin and he said, I think I know what I want to call the program, Evolve. And to be honest, I didn't think too much about it, about what it would mean and what it encompassed. But now after a year of just like every week we're making like little tweaks. What materials can we send the students to make it easier? How can we make it a little bit faster? What can we do to deepen the insight a little bit? How can we motivate people a little bit more? Like every week we are constantly tweaking to make this the best art program, like the best foundation art program in the world. And I know that it's just so exciting to be on this journey that we're just getting started. And I'm going to wrap up here. So thanks, Kevin, for hopping on. And thank you, people, for watching. This is going to be our first video podcast, and we're going to have some more coming up. And I think part of the Evolve process is that, like, the students too, we're changing. We're becoming different people, and I'm becoming a different person in this. And I realized that hiding behind just a microphone and not getting out there was not doing a service. I have to, I have a gift for talking with people, and so I'm going to own that a little bit more. And in the next couple of weeks, we're going to interview some of the Evolve students, so you can get a chance to meet some of the superstars that are inside there. And I'll see you in the next couple of weeks. Thanks, Kevin.
Actually,
go ahead.
I just want to say before we go, for anybody who's curious about what we're doing, to go out to the website, but particularly on evolveartist.com, to go out and look at the curriculum. The first 4 blocks are laid out. You can see exactly the progression, step by step. I mean, I was looking at it earlier today, and it really does. It shows the incremental growth. And I think that for so many people, the big challenge is, they don't believe it's possible for them. And I think when people look at the program laid out that way, it feels attainable. And it is as simple as it looks, small incremental steps. So I didn't mean to jump in there at the end there, but I just thought, again, I think that's such a big thing, seeing the curriculum with your own eyes. Yeah.
And make sure you start at block 1. Don't start at block 4 and go backwards. That's what people always do. They're like, I want to see how awesome I can be. It's like, no. You start simple. You build. What we say is that each assignment is like a 5%, a 2% increment. Like it's varies.
Well, we say a 10%. So what we're looking for is, if you start at absolute 0, if you're an unmitigated disaster with art, you start at 0. The quality of your work, and what we're trying to do is get you at the end of the block to 100%. The first exercise comes in as a 0. The second exercise, we just want a 10% improvement. The next exercise after that, just a 10% improvement. And this is if you're at absolute zero. Nobody is. People who come into the program, and as long as they can hold a pencil, they're starting at 40, 50%, which means now the incremental growth from exercise to exercise is only 5%. A 5% increase in the quality in each piece. So there's no expectation of perfection. We're striving for excellence, but not perfection. Perfection will come through the incremental growth. And if we can get you from where you were at the beginning with those incremental growths in the last piece to get you to 100%, when you step into the second block, you're starting exactly where we want you to start. And the incremental 10% steps start again. And each one of the blocks, these are baby steps. So at no point are you being pushed for perfection. Perfection happens naturally as you work through the process, as you develop the skills. The work becomes more complex, but it's the same ideas. There aren't a lot of ideas. There aren't a lot of skills in making art. Then there aren't many moving parts. And so we apply them to more and more complex stuff as you get more and more experience using them. That's all.
Right. And you can find that over at evolveartist.com. And we'll see you next week with some interviews of other students. Talk to you soon.